This is Dench, the half-orc barbarian that I'm going to solo play. I'm playing D&D by 5th edition rules. So now I got this diagram I put together to help guide us through this session here. So as I said before, Dench is a half-orc barbarian. His name is Dench. He's only level 1. So I decided we're going to start off with Dench being a young adult. So he journeyed to this island that is my world. That's it, just the island. It's a big island, kind of like Australia, you know. It's a continent, but it's also an island. So he's a young adult, which for a half-orc barbarian begins at 14. He's 14 years old. He has no other history that is noteworthy. So there's no backstory. We are building his backstory now for later. So yeah, he's on the giant unexplored island. And this is what he really knows about the island. So, of course, he's living in the settlement, the tavern. Tavern's near the dock where he arrived via ship. So, there's ocean there, of course. Now, along the ocean to the north is cliffs there. And also that forms the mountainous region. And then to the west of that, we got jungle. And so, there's a river that is flowing down from the mountains. Remember, the mountains go up, to unknown territory up there. But water does flow through a jungle, and then it comes to a lake to the west over there. There's also forest around the lake. The lake is feeding the forest, and the forest takes up all the water, so that once you get more southwest down here, you got desert. So, again, it's kind of like Australia. You know, there's green parts of Australia, and there's desert parts of Australia. Just a giant continent island right there. And so it's a very diverse area. And then the beach runs along the ocean to the southeast. So now moving on down to this part of the diagram right here. I have already decided that I'm going to have a bandit that's going to attempt a robbery, and Dench is going to step in and take care of the bandit. Hopefully, these are actual rolls that I did, so there was a chance Dench could die instead of the bandit. In fact, he lets the bandit live. We'll get to that later. But in any case, this is kind of how I'm going to come up with random events for Dench to deal with. So here, we got a roll of 1 to 10. That could mean that you got a bandit doing something, or maybe a different monster is doing a robbery, and maybe that indicates the location and whatever. Again, this is a smaller table that I'm going to work with just for this video to explain my process. But in any case, we got the bandit. He could do a robbery, an assault, or he could be going after food. Now, if I rolled like a 16 and got a giant rat, the rat would probably be going after food. Maybe the rat just wants to attack something, so maybe assault. And I can't really see a situation where the rat would do a robbery, So again, this is just kind of like a guideline right there, just to work with ideas and also make many of those ideas, if not all of them, random right there. So now we move over here, which kind of explains what we're going to have going on in this session here. So the session is a combat battle. We have Dench. And by the way, he has red eyes. I just kind of did a quick drawing. I'll probably, update it later. Add a body and stuff too. But in case, I just make this with MS Paint right there. I can keep adding to it whenever I want. Now, we have Dench. He catches a bandit trying to rob Squiggy. So Squiggy is the tavern owner. Dench lives at the tavern for free in return for protecting the tavern. So we kind of got a situation here where he kind of has to fight, but he's a half-orc. He likes fighting. You don't really need motivation for that. And maybe later on I'll make a roll where, if you roll a 1, he decides he doesn't want to fight or something, even though he's half-orc barbarian. But in any case, Dench walks up to the bandit and tells him to leave. He hears the bandit saying, give me your money or whatever. And Squiggy looks at Dench because Dench is behind the bandit. But Dench doesn't try to just attack the bandit. He gives him the option to leave, but instead the bandit decides to fight. I decided that, bandits and other monsters look at NPCs like Squiggy. So I'm playing this character. I'm also the DM because I'm solo playing. Normally that'd be 2 different people. But in any case, the DM usually has other characters that are going around. They're non-player characters. So the players aren't playing them. They're just kind of doing their own thing in the world that the DM generated. So For me, that's every character. But any case, he's a non-playing character right there. Bandit is the monster. Monsters are used to the NPCs being weaker creatures. So we got Dench here. He is a, kind of a local hero. He's much tougher, and therefore he's willing to take on the bandit. Bandit's not used to that. He thinks he's going to be able to have an easy fight. So Dench, his strength is 17. If you have a barbarian, probably the ability that you're going to want to be the highest is strength. So we got that, and then being a half orc adds a little bit to it, and so on. But in any case, we got strength 17. Next to the strength ability score, we have what's called a modifier. So this is what will be added in this case to dice rolls. If it's a negative number, then you would subtract that number from certain dice rolls where it says to add your ability modifier. Whether you add or subtract, it says add in the book. I'm not trying to replace the book. Make sure you read the books. I'm just giving a quick explanation of what we're working with in this video. And we got Constitution, same thing right there. It's probably your second highest ability score that you'll want to pick based on making the character in the book. And then Dexterity, that helps, as we'll see down there. So he has 14 hit points, Dench does. He starts off with 12 because he's a level 1 barbarian. So his hit points are based on the 12-sided dice. Higher levels, level 2 and so on, you roll, but you can either just add like 6 or 7. I think it's 7, but it's about the average roll. You can just add the average roll after each level, or you can actually roll it if you want to be more surprised if he gets a little bit more hit points or a lot more hit points each time that he levels up. Now you add the Constitution modifier right there, which is +2, as I said before. So yeah, 12 plus 2 is 14. So now the next thing we care about is Dench's AC right there. So that means armor class. And again, I just wrote all this to help guide the video. It's not to be informational. Make sure you check the book, Player's Handbook in this case, for all this information. But in any case, Dench starts off not wearing armor because he's a level 1 barbarian. So they start off with no armor, but since he's a barbarian, he gets a little help while he's unarmored. So he's going to have 13 AC. That is based on just a base number of 10 right there. And then you add the Constitution modifier, which is up there, the Constitution. So +2 in this case. So any character that has 15 Constitution will have a +2 modifier. They'll have 12 hit points. But since we are a barbarian, we have unarmored defense. That's one of the traits of the barbarian, which means you get to also add your dexterity modifier right there, which is +1. So if dexterity and constitution were both really high, we would have an even higher AC right there. So that's one advantage. Armor will probably be better than unarmored at some point, but since he starts off unarmored, this is kind of what we got to work with, and it's helpful. And the other thing that's very important when you are starting off learning how to play D&D and stuff is your melee attack right there, especially if you're playing a barbarian. So I got that information right here in a brief summary. So when you attack something with the melee weapon right there, you roll a 20-sided dice. Now, if you roll a 1, that attack misses. You're not going to cause damage to them. If you roll a 20, that's a critical hit. So that's very helpful with the hit. We don't run into that in this scenario though, because I didn't roll a 20, and so we're not going to go into that in more detail. But again, check the Player's Handbook for more information on that if you're interested in. So roll a 20-sided dice. Whatever that is, as long as it's not 1 or 20, you add 3, because that is my strength bonus right there. I'm using strength-based weapon, a great axe, which I'll mention again a little bit later. So we add the strength bonus since it's a strength-based weapon, and also I'm proficient. Dench is. He knows how to use the great axe. Been trained with the great axe or whatever, and so he has a better chance of hitting than some weapon he's unfamiliar with or something. So you get to add that to your attack. So now we come down to combat, and that's really what this whole session is about. This was just to help kind of explain everything that's going to happen in the combat. Now, to begin with, Dench did not try to sneak up on Bandit at all. I'm just going to call him Bandit. He, warned him, leave this tavern or whatever. So there's no way to surprise Bandit. Now, Dench made himself aware. If he just decided he wanted to attack Bandit, well, Bandit was ordering Squiggy, the tavern owner, to give him money, then he could roll for a surprise. But we don't have that option here. It's just going to be combat, so now we got to roll for initiative. So that means all the player characters and the monsters, you could group the monsters together or whatever if you want, but in any case, they roll 20-sided dice, and then you also add the dexterity mod to that. So for Dench, I went to a website. It wasn't Google, but I did a search engine just for like random dice or something like that. A little program pops up, and then there's a way you can make dice pop up with random numbers, and then you can roll them again after that. But in any case, 20-sided dice I selected, and 17 popped up right there. Now we add 1 to that for 18. So that is Dench's initiative roll, whereas Bandit here, he rolled a 13 when I rolled for him. And then he gets a +1 because that's his dexterity mod. He's in the monster manual on page 343 if you want to read all of the stuff for Bandit. But here, this is all we need to know for now. So he rolled 14, which means Dench gets to go first on every turn that pops up. Every round, I should say. So in the first round, Dench gets to go first, and he decides his action is going to be to attack. So there's a lot of action options, but he's just going to attack. He's close to Bandit. He can attack without having to move or anything. And that's all we're going to focus on in this session here is attack. So Bandit, he has an AC of 12. Again, check the Monster Manual, page 343, if you want details on Bandit's stats. And he has hit point of 11. So we're going to have to roll 12 or more. As long as our roll equals 12, then it will be a hit. So first off, you roll the dice, and I only got a 5 on there. And then we add the strength modifier 3, and then we add 2 as well. So we ended up with a dice roll of 10. So wasn't what the actual dice was. When you hear dice roll, that's the final number. Just remember, if the actual dice hits 1, it's a miss no matter what. And if the actual dice hits 20, it's a critical hit no matter what. Not if this adds up to 20, but if the dice is actually 20. So we got a roll of 10, which is a miss because we need 12 or more to get a hit. Now the Bandit has a scimitar. Again, the details are in the Monster Manual for what that means. But in any case, I rolled 11 for him. Again, just using a random dice generator right there. And then the Monster Manual, again, page 343, says you get a +3 to hit for the Bandit right there. So his roll is 14 right there. Now, Dench's armor class is, I forget his armor class. I think it's 13. Yeah, 13 right there. So 14 is higher than 13 right there. So that is a hit. Then you roll for damage. Well, you can roll for damage. In the Monster Manual, it also says that the Bandit with the scimitar can do 4 damage right there. That's kind of the average. Otherwise, what you can do is roll a 6-sided dice. I didn't do that. I just used 4 right there. But you could roll a 6-sided dice and then add 1 to whatever that result is. So if you got 3 + 1, then you got 4, which is kind of what you can kind of expect right there. So you can just make things quicker by using 4. But in any case, Dench had 14 hit points. He lost 4. So now he has 10 hit points. So that's kind of a serious wound when you go by the numbers. And we'll address that in the next round. So now we begin round 2 because both Dench and Bandit did all they're going to do in round 1. They kind of ran out of things they can do for the most part. They don't want to move though, so we kind of got to go to round 2. They could still move. So now I made a mistake here. I wrote 14 when I meant to write 24. We'll come back to that. Just be aware that's what that means. So Dench took damage. So that's kind of a fair amount of damage in my opinion. He got kind of a nasty wound, And so he's not going to mess around anymore. Since Dench is a barbarian, he can rage. Now he can rage at level 1 twice before a long rest right there. So we're not going to worry about that too much. Just know he can rage. What rage does, that's a barbarian thing, is it makes it so that the barbarian will do more damage and can also avoid taking damage. So it's very helpful in battles. Again, read the player's handbook for specifics. I'm not trying to actually teach the game so much, more just play through, in this case, this battle. So, in any case, he attacks again with the Great Axe. That's what he decides to do with his action right there. The Rage was a bonus action, so sometimes you can do a bonus action in a round when it is your turn, which Dench did. And then, so he did the Rage before his attack. You can't do this after the attack. Until the next round. So, in any case, we got, he ended up with 24. So he rolled a 19. I rolled 19 when I went on the search for the dice roll and rolled the dice. That's what that means. It wasn't 1 or 20, so we get to add 5 to that, which gives us 24. And the bandit's AC, I don't think I wrote it anywhere on here, but the bandit's AC is 12. So that's in the monster manual if you read it. So 24 is higher than 12. It's got to be 12 or equal. So we got a hit. That's what we got. And the damage ended up being 10. So I rolled a 12-sided dice. That's for the Great Axe right there. Roll a 12-sided dice. And then you add the strength modifier right there, which is +3. And normal damage, that's where we would end. But since Dench is raging right there, we get to add 2 damage. Thanks to the rage right there. So that helps out a lot. Helps with the battle. So I got a total of 10 hit points. Now, the bandit's hit points is 11 right there. Unless, as the DM, you decide to make it a different number, which you can. You can, modify the creature. But the book says 11 hit points right there. And we just took away 10. So he's got 1 hit point left. And I kind of wanted the bandit to fight to the finish, but we went from full hit points to almost none. If you get 0, you're either knocked unconscious or dead. But for the monsters, so yeah, he's almost dead. If Dench is raging or whatever, he might want to finish him off. So he took a swing at the bandit with the Great Axe, because remember, you're role playing. You want to think through what the fight is doing, not just what the numbers are. And got a real good slash, just cut him open really bad right there. So the bandit decides to use his action. Dench is done. He did his bonus action, his action. He's not going to move or anything, which is kind of all he can do now. So it's the bandit's turn in round 2 right there. He decides to run out the door. So dash means he moves twice as fast. So I think each of these characters can move 30 feet, but if you dash, you can move like twice as far. So that he uses that as his action. He can't attack and then dash. He's got to just dash. So he does that. He runs out the door. And Dench takes his hit points. He defeated the bandit. So even though he didn't kill him, he defeated him. He started off with 0 hit points. Again, we're starting off from scratch. That's one reason why I kept everything very simple here. All we did for the action was attack, even though there's a lot of options you can do for action. And so on. He's just beginning to learn how to fight in this world that I created. So he started with 0 experience right there. Dench did. He defeated the bandit. He didn't have to kill him. The bandit ran away. He won the fight. So I'm giving him 25 experience because the bandit is a 1/8 challenge character. So the book assigns them 25 XP when you beat them if they're 1/8 challenge. Now, quarter challenge characters will give you more XP, but they're also tougher and so on. You got to be aware of that. And as we saw, the bandit was able to do a fair amount of damage. If I rolled really poorly for Dench, he may have lost the fight, although the rage helps out a lot and stuff. So very unlikely as long as he rages, but it is possible. So, in any case, that is it for this session right here. Again, it's Dench. He's the first character that I'm solo role playing. This is the first video I made where I'm solo role playing a character. But I'm solo playing D&D. I've been preparing for a long time, but not full time either. But in any case, this play right here kind of summarizes what I came up with when it comes to role playing. So I'm sure I'll modify it a bit, but in any case, if you found this interesting, this is kind of what I plan to keep doing with different characters as well, and at higher levels and stuff. So you know, they'll be able to do a lot more and stuff at higher levels and so on. They'll be tougher and whatnot. But for their first video, whatever character I make, I'm going to keep it simple like this as an introduction. So in any case, that's it. Dench is this character, and I hope you like Dench, and I hope he doesn't die. If a character ends up dying, which is also kind of difficult to do, that's it. That's going to be the end of their journey and the videos that I make for that specific character right there. So I might make another one with a different name with all the same starting stats and whatever, but I'll start them at level 1 and move them on. So I'm going to treat each character kind of like reality. If they die, that's it. They're dead. No more videos. But in any case, thanks for checking this out, and make sure you check out any other videos I post to the screen and whatnot. Check out links down below as well.